Welcome to Scotch and Scripture. Well, how you doing? My name is Rob and I'm here to tell you my top 10 tips if you're just getting into Scotch from an actual Scottish guy. Well, it can be a little bit daunting getting into Scotch, even if you already like other types of whiskey. Scotch is kind of its own animal, and a lot of people, honestly, I've just seen people making mistakes when they're drinking it, and you might think, what do you mean making mistakes? I mean, how hard is it to put a glass to your lips and drink? It's not quite like that. What I'd say is that we are all about appreciation on this channel, and I see people making mistakes that are just probably going to put them off Scotch for life. We want to avoid that. That's just unacceptable. So, since it can cost a decent whack to buy a bottle of what we call the water of life, I thought maybe I could share some helpful tips with you that can just blow past some of the stuff that might potentially put you off the really good stuff, and go straight to calling yourself a bona fide Scotch guy or girl. Before we go any further, if you do me a favour and like and subscribe, that's going to help me grow this little channel and hopefully reach some people, and that'll be a nice thing. So, without any more ado, as they say, here are my top 10 tips. Cheers. The light means I'm not sure. Glasses on, glasses off, I don't know. I'll keep them on for now. Right, tip 1. Price isn't everything. In fact, price can be kind of a poor indicator. Scotch auctions always make it sound like really old and really rare Scotch is kind of like the pinnacle. But guys who work for distilleries will tell you that they would rather spend that kind of money, say 100 grand it sells for in an auction, on like 1,000 cases of just good $60 to $100 or £100 bottles of whiskey. So price isn't really an indicator, and in fact the longer that a whiskey matures, the danger increases that it's going to evaporate a little bit more and take on more and more characteristics of the wood, to the point where it actually goes over the threshold and starts to become bitter. A lot of people look at Macallan, for example, and go, that's the kind of watermark of quality. But Macallan's really going after that luxury market, a bit like Breitling or Rolex or Maybach or one of these brands. Macallan wants to be associated like that, but most Scotch whisky guys will tell you that the Macallan is good, but it's not that good. We don't want to get caught up in spending loads and loads and loads of money where we could actually buy maybe 2 or 3 bottles of good stuff for the same amount of money. So price isn't everything. Alright, tip 2 would be this. That's kind of rude. Tip 2 would be this. Do a little research, specifically to find a bottle with flavours and notes that you already know that you're going to enjoy. So let's say, for instance, you love barbecue and you know that you love burnt ends on a nice piece of pork or steak. You're probably going to like a smoky whiskey, so you're probably going to be into an Islay for your first bottle. If you like more of a kind of sweet and smooth type thing, you might be more suited to a lowland or a Speyside. So do a little research before you go and buy your first bottle and get something that is at least going to give you a chance. Tip 3, utilise YouTube. YouTube is just such a good research tool for everything. Any DIY I've practically ever done has come from YouTube. Same thing with Scotch whisky. There's a lot of really, really good informative channels out there. 3 that I really like and recommend would be First Fill, guy from New Zealand who really knows his stuff. Edinburgh Whisky Academy is actually kind of a small channel, but it's a really, really good, very, very informative. And I really like Whiskey Tribe, Daniel and Rex. Just funny guys, really, really know their whiskey, and although they do all kinds of whiskey, they know a lot about Scotch, so recommend those things. And of course, Scotch and Scripture. Just a side note though, I will say there's a couple of channels out there, and I'm not going to name them, but where they absolutely butcher the pronunciations of Scotch whisky distilleries. It drives me mental, and I did at one point leave a note for one guy on his channel, and he was less than polite in his reply, so I will not name him, but he knows who he is. Tip 4, understand there's going to be differences in the Scotch whisky regions. Now, a bit like all bourbons are whiskies, but all whiskies are bourbons, that kind of thing. In Scotland you get 5 distinct regions, and they are going to be pretty distinct for their flavour profile, so it's good to understand. So in brief, Highlands are going to be kind of dried fruit, floral, all the way through to Brime. It's such a big region, it's got the islands included in it. Speysides are going to be smooth, kind of honey, vanilla, pear, a lot of sherry casks in the Speyside whiskies. Lowlands going to be soft, kind of creamy, ginger, kind of toffee notes. Islay, smoke. There's more to it than just smoke, but that's your smoke place. Campbelltown is going to be a little salt, a little smoke, little fruit, little toffee, vanilla. So there's exceptions and outliers to all of the regions obviously, but in general those are the main parts. Tip 5, and I cannot emphasize this enough, invest in one of these. This is a Glencairn glass, specifically designed to be able to nose the whiskey, and it holds an appropriate amount. You're not going to be tempted to put an ice cube in here. You're going to enjoy the Scotch for what it really is. They're inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon, and they can be at your house in a couple of days. Don't put your Scotch in a tumbler, please just don't do it. Get yourself a Glencairn. In fact, if you have a Glencairn already, or there's one that's coming, do a little AB, not a lot of whiskey, but do a little AB with a tumbler and a Glencairn, and you're going to see it straight away. There's basically no comparison. You're either going to be able to nose and enjoy the whiskey properly, or it's going to be kind of lost to the world in one of these. Tip 6, okay, so you've actually gone out and bought your first bottle of Scotch. My tip is this: read the tasting notes. They're usually on the bottle or on the cardboard package. If not, you can usually find them easily somewhere on the World Wide Web. Always be careful on the internet, always. It's a good thing to do, just to read the notes, to know what you're kind of looking for, and it's a great way to kind of get your nose and your palate accustomed to different flavours when you try different scotches. So definitely read the notes. I still do. Every bottle I get, I still read the notes. It's like a little love letter that the whiskey wrote to you, and I like it. That's kind of sad. Ugh. So tip number 7 is a big one for me. We want to clean the glass. Now what does that mean? Obviously you clean it. I'm assuming you're not a dirty person. In Scotland we call you a minger. I'm assuming you're not one of those people, and you do actually clean your plates and your glasses and knives and forks and all that. No different with the Glencairn. You want to clean it with normal soap, but what you don't want to do when you're nosing and tasting a high quality Scotch single malt whiskey is you don't want to be tasting or smelling Irish Spring or whatever detergent you use in your dishwasher, or even when you're cleaning it by hand. So we want to clean the glass. What we're basically going to do is we're going to pour a little whiskey into something like this. This is a teapot that I bought for my wife one year. It wasn't a very good gift, if we're being honest, and she's never used it. Anyway, we're going to use something like this, and then we're going to pour just a little bit into the Glencairn. Just a little bit now. And the reason why we're only going to do a little bit is we're going to actually discard this, which sounds like a capital crime, something you should be sent to jail for, but there's method to the madness. And what you're going to do is swirl around a little whiskey here, and then you're going to basically swirl it and make sure it covers every part of this glass, and then eventually it's going to just basically trickle out. And what you're left with is whiskey coating all parts of this glass. And yes, it does sound sacrilegious, but you're going to thank me for doing it. Alright, so tip 8, now we have the whiskey in the glass in its final resting place. This is where we wanted it all this time. We finally got it here, and we're going to take our time. We're going to nose it. Tip 8, nose the whiskey. So you want to get your nose right in there like swimwear, and then you want to be really looking for those tasting notes. So again, we're reading the box, we're reading the bottle, looking for a little honey, looking for vanilla. I'm starting to find it. And then the reason you want to go deep inside, the first time you sniff it, you're going to just get hit with that alcohol. I mean, most whiskies are going to be anywhere between 40 and 56% whiskey alcohol, so you're going to get hit with that. But the more you get back to it, the more you get past that, and you start to pick out some of the notes. So nosing the whiskey is incredibly important, and a top tip for you is do it with your mouth slightly open like this. Now, I don't know why, I'm not a biologist or a scientist by any means, but apparently that really helps the nose, so try that. Alright, we're nearly there. Right, tip number 9 is this: hold the whiskey on your palate. Listen, I don't understand why people do shots. I mean, I understand it for certain things, right? But Scotch whisky, we're not going to shoot Scotch, but we're not Philistines, guys. We are connoisseurs. We want to hold it on the palate, and the reason we want to do that is we want to really experience all the flavours. Now, if you've got a tumbler, you might have seen some people drinking Scotch like this, and they sip it, they just straight in and then drink it down, and then they're pretending that it's not causing havoc inside their throat, and you know that it is, because again, it can be anywhere between 40 and 56 alcohol, and that can give you a little sting. So don't try and be a hero. We're not going to do that, right? And anyway, if you do that, you're just going to miss out on so much. This bottle here, it's a 10-year. If the age statement says 10, that means we're going to do 1 second on the palate for every year this thing has been in a barrel. Why? We're going to respect the art form that is the single malt Scotch whisky. We're going to respect the brave men that made this bottle, and we're going to get bang for our buck. At the end of the day, it costs a lot of money. It's not an inexpensive hobby, and we want to make sure we're making the most of it. So if you have to discard a little bit when we're nosing it, that's okay, because we know that we're actually going to get the full value by taking it in the mouth and holding it. You could just sip it quickly and you'll never understand the joy of the Scotch whisky. And I'm telling you, this is where people go wrong with Scotch. They don't appreciate it, they don't take their time, they just gulp it down, and in doing so they don't get the joy from it. So we want to experience joy, brothers and sisters. 1 second on the palate for every year of the age statement. Slangivar. Worth it. Alright, my last tip, tip 10. Enjoy your dram with some scripture. The channel's called Scotch and Scripture for a reason. I wanted to start this channel because I wasn't really seeing that cohesion anywhere else on YouTube, and I thought, you know what, I love to sit and have a dram and either read the Bible or think about something I read in my quiet time, just reflect on it, reflect on the glory of God, and enjoy His bounty and all His goodness. I can't recommend to you highly enough, and maybe you're not even a believer and you're watching this for the first time. Listen mate, you're welcome to this channel. Do yourself a favour, think about the possibility of God while you're having a dram. And for those of us who are further along on the journey, think about the goodness of God, the greatness of God. Give thanks to Him for His vision, for His blessings. Give thanks to Him for the things He's going to do in your life going forward. We want to enjoy our Scotch with some scripture. It's the only way to fly. This has been my top 10 tips for Scotch newcomers. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, please like and subscribe. It's going to help me a bunch. And God bless you guys. Take care.